Hi folks, welcome to Follow the Leader, podcast focused on telling character-driven stories through the use of GM-less tabletop games where we can all take the lead. You can find us on Twitter and Tumblr at FTLcast. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/FTLcast. Today we're playing with Fire Thy Affections Hold a Wing, a Riverhouse game by Taylor Labreche. For those of you who are new to this game, here are the basics. 2 worlds spin as one in the misty air of the void, 2 imposing rocks alight in fog. Both worlds ripple with airy crags, and the rush of wind buffets both those who live on the surface. The wings of dragons fly here, and those who ride them know the air well.
2 worlds spin as one as dragon and rider come together, looping acrobatics through the void. Just as the inhabitants of one world are unaware of the other, so too are the initiate and the hatchling, neither connected to the other, only thinking of themselves.
2 worlds spin as one, and as the colossal spheres hurtle towards each other on a cataclysmic collision course, the souls of riders and dragons move to intersect as one. At the end of the story, both will be one, or both will be none. I'm Dora, and you can find me at HarpyDora on Twitter, and my pronouns are they, them. Playing with me today we have...
I'm Jade. You can find me on Twitter at JadeOxfordRose, and I also use they, them pronouns. And that's it. It's just 2 of us.
I know, it's so weird. Yeah, today we're...
so quiet in here.
We're doing a special 2-player game, so we'll see how this goes. Our lines, which are things we absolutely do not want to see, are homophobia and transphobia, racism, sexism, violence against children and animals, sexual assault, domestic violence or intimate partner violence, and unwanted pregnancy. Our veils, which are things we're fine with addressing but will just fade to black on, are steamy situations and graphic descriptions of bodily harm. Now that we've got all that, let's get started.
Do we want to read the play stuff from page 3 of the PDF, the social fiction game, tell the story together? Do we want to rattle that through? This is cool. This is a social fiction game for 2 players. Both of you together will tell the story of a young dragon and its young rider, both coming of age against an apocalyptic background. You will both tell the story, but each person will take ownership of their character's actions, words, and perspective. Detailed rules are later in the playbook, but the game will play simply as an improvised roleplay session.
You will tell this story together in framed scenes, making wagers about what story beats will happen narratively in each scene. If you play it safe, your story will be easier to tell but may not have the happiest outcome. If you play it risky, you will have to be on your toes as an improviser and will have scenes full of expectations. The game may be harder to play, but it will have a much better ending.
As you play scenes and make wagers, you will bond with one another, blending the souls of dragon and rider. The more story beats you wager and include in your scenes, the more bonds you will produce with your partner. However, if you wager a story beat and your role-played scene does not deliver, you will lose bonds as the egos of dragon and rider clash.
At the end of every scene, the other world, a mirror of your own, moves closer. After 5 scenes, it impacts with yours, and you and your partner will undergo an apocalyptic test. If you are bonded well, you will survive. If you bonded poorly, you will perish.
See, what's interesting about this game, and it's really rad, is it's very much designed to have tactile aspects to it. One of the things it instructs as part of the play materials is a ball or roll of yarn as a way to indicate the bonds. So we're as we like to do at Follow the Leader, and not just by virtue of the fact that we play remotely, so none of us are in the same place at the same time, is that we like a challenge. But originally, as per the play materials, the way that the bonds between dragon and rider are represented in this game is by grasping hands with your partner and looping or draping yarn or cloth around your grasped hands. You will be making many bonds during the game. It's incredibly important not to loop tightly, as circulation is important. If you notice circulation is lost, stop play immediately and address this. I love this. But it's great. the play materials have got a whole good thing about touch and safety, about making sure you and your partner know what boundaries you're comfortable with regards to touch and such things as that. But it's a really cool mechanic that I've not really seen before. We've come across like physical aspects to integrate with games, like Starcrossed has been played on the live stream. But yeah, it's very cool.
It is. And as our stand-in for physical touch with each other, we've both decided that we are going to maintain physical contact with a couple of plushies that we have. I have chosen to use a little crab that I have that I've named Horseshoe.
And today the part of Dora's hand will be played by a Piplup plushie.
So, the form and structure of the game, the main form of this game's story is told scene by scene of a dragon and their rider. We've already decided who wants to be the dragon and who wants to be the rider. And after we've decided who's playing which, we read through the opening Mad Lib to set the scene of the game. This call and response will help establish a mood for the game and also set up some introductory details to get us going. There are 5 scenes to play through. As we play through each scene, we read the title of the scene and review each role's wagers involved, which are the story beats and elements that may come up during a scene. And if we see a wager listed that we think will come up in play, we'll make a mental count of it. And once we've looked at our wager list and counted our wagers, we have to tell each other how many we've chosen, and you must choose at least one. So,
yeah, and as you go through the scenes, if a wager happens in the fiction, you get to loop the yarn or whatever around around the grass hands. I've got my own little spool of stuff to do it. It's just a fun visual indicator of how many bonds you've been able to establish. So it's cool. Yep. I'm just very excited by the novelty of having tactile props.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. And after we've chosen our wagers, we set aside the document and act out our scene with our partner. So the first thing that we do is we start with the prologue when we met on the cliffs. This play takes place after we've decided who's playing who, and it tells of how the rider stumbles upon the dragon fresh from the egg on a precarious cliff hanging off into the misty abyss. We use the prologue to establish details about our world and the characters we'll be playing, and this sets the stage for the bond between rider and dragon. After this scene, the second planet becomes barely visible in the night sky.
Choice. Do we want to say who we're playing, or are we just going to go in?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So I believe you start.
I'm playing the rider, and I'm going to be playing Theo, who regular listeners of the show will have an idea of who that is. And Theo is using they, them pronouns.
Yep, and I'll be playing the dragon, and I'll be playing Parker, again, who regular listeners of the show may recognize, but he uses he or they pronouns, and is basically just a very happy-go-lucky, optimistic individual.
Whereas Theo is a very nervous person and a bit shy, but very enthusiastic about the things that they like. So it should be a fun mix.
All right, let's start with the prologue.
Okay. It was a snowy day when I found you, and I was lost.
I was cold and shivering on that cliff, hanging to life.
We were both there at the end of our ropes. When I approached you, you recoiled from me.
I was afraid you would push me to my doom.
I saw your eyes go wide, and I knew you were scared. So I hung back.
You said that you wouldn't mind helping me stay warm, and I knew you meant no harm. And then we say the next part together as best we can. We saved each other that day and began a bond that would lead us to the end of the world. I'll try to edit that to be in sync.
Yep, I have faith in you. Power of the edit.
Yep, we'll fix it in post.
Okay, so now we take hold of our plushy substitutes and do a loop according to the material. So, because the bond has begun. Okay, the first scene. Rolling back up. The first real scene. Oh, sorry.
Does the loop count as? Does the first loop count as a bond gained?
I assume so, because it's like you establish it. Like that, the first bond is that meeting and that moment, and then other bonds occur as you go on.
Okay, I'm just going to note down that we've gained our first bond.
Cool. The first real scene is when we tested our boundaries. In this scene, the rider and dragon get to know each other and push each other in small ways. Mild annoyances, quirks, and clashes are common between young dragons and their riders, and this scene explores all of that. That said, these testing periods are also full of wide-eyed wonder and joy. The thrill of two souls meeting and twirling in this dance, exploring what is capable of each other, is exhilarating. After the scene resolves, the other planet moves closer as the weeks pass. It's now the source of odd talk around town. And the wages for when we tested our boundaries.
For the dragon, I will catch a wild animal for the rider to eat. I will show the rider my hoard. I will dump the rider unceremoniously into a body of water. I will scare the rider with an unorthodox maneuver. I will singe the rider's clothing or hair.
And for the rider, I will tell the dragon a story about my youth. I will give the dragon a trinket or bauble to wear. I will steer the dragon over a dangerous landmark. I will kiss the ground after a stomach-turning stunt. And I will sustain a minor wound. Which ones of these do I want to do?
Okay, I have my wagers.
As do I. So we've both picked 3, which is fantastic. Because this is who Dora and I are as people.
Yep.
So yeah, we just dive in, I guess.
Yeah.
So where do we think this scene is happening? Is it still snowy? Is it still like the winter season?
Yeah, I like the idea of it being colder. I like the idea, because there's always the we've already established there's the idea of huddling for warmth. At least that's what Parker's interested to start with.
Mm-hmm.
But does this stuff happen immediately after we find each other, or is this?
I feel like it's maybe like in the sort of, because I don't know whether we have to RP it directly. It feels like it's the first couple of weeks afterwards. Like I can see that first day is like Theo sort of after getting Parker somewhere safe and the two of them keeping each other warm maybe for the worst of that day's weather. Theo has to go back home to like the village or the town, but like promises to come back and like comes back with like food and stuff.
Okay.
So maybe it's like the first time or the second time after that they've come back.
Okay.
And like they're proving themselves as reliable.
I like that. And I think one of the things that's happened while Theo's been gone is Parker has gone out and tried to prove themselves reliable by trying to find some rabbits or something that they can bring home to contribute to the food pile.
Important question, as we have not established this. What does Parker look like? And how big?
I imagine Parker's like not about human sized almost. Like actually no, a little bit larger, because I feel like Parker is, already capable of supporting Theo's weight. But they're very stout, with really strong wings, and I think they're probably mottled red and brown, with very, very wide brown eyes.
God, that's cute. Holy shit. Amusingly, I think Theo also has very big sort of brown eyes. but just sort of like has that vibe of always looking a little bit alarmed, like they're that kind of big, and is very small, but by the standards of like the people they grew up around, like on the skinny side, short, dresses in lots of layers, even probably when it's not cold. But this isn't like a wealthy town where they're from. But so there's probably not loads of food spare, but they've been sneaky and tried to not leave anybody short, but make sure that they can bring something for Parker. So they just sort of show up at the little cave / campsite. I'm imagining sort of more of a cave just away from the very front of the cliff. And just like coming in, like pushing the hood back, like dusting some of the snow off, trying to unwind the scarf a little bit and getting ready to maybe this time they've brought some like firewood or something, because like Parker never has any issue lighting it. Yep. So it doesn't matter too much if it's a little bit damp as well. So like a small like bundle of firewood, and like sort of almost trips over themselves as they get into the cave and sort of gets that going and notices the offering / collection of like rabbits and stuff like that. She's like, "Oh, that's good. I can cook that. Or do you like it cooked? Would you rather have it raw? I don't want to assume."
They're for you, so if you want them cooked, we'll cook them.
Oh, that. Would you mind? And starts like gathering the firewood into a pile, and then steps back.
Parker gets a little too enthusiastic about lighting the fire, though, and doesn't quite wait for Theo to step back quite so much before he's already breathing a jet of flame. And as soon as he notices, he's just like, "Oh, sorry."
I think like Theo sort of stumbled back from that and probably tripped over like a bump in the cave floor and just like sprawled on their back and just like now patting out the singed the slightly singed front of their clothes. Just sits up sort of like shaking out their arm a little bit and holding it close. No, it's fine, really. It's fine. Accidents happen. I should have moved quicker.
Parker just kind of like steps around the flame and like nuzzles a little at Theo and is just like, I'm so sorry. I'll pay more attention next time.
It's okay. I'm just it's fine, Parker really, and sort of like pats them awkwardly back, but it's sort of like pleased that I know. I don't think people apologize to Theo a lot. So it's a bit of a nice thing for them to experience.
Aww.
And Theo sets about like cooking the rabbits and gets out the stuff that they brought for Parker to eat. And they sort of like have this meal together looking out over the cliffside. Do you think it's cliff that falls down onto rock at the bottom, or a cliffside that goes over water?
I like the idea of a cliffside going over water.
Me too. So they're like sat there eating, and there's the vista in front of like the open water and like snowflakes just like lightly falling down onto it, and it's that kind of weird way the light starts diffusing through snow clouds. It's that sort of grey, but in the nice way.
Yeah.
And the border is pretty calm.
Parker like picks through the food that Theo's brought and is just like not gorging themselves, but still just like obviously really deeply enjoying eating. And eating with Theo. Like, this is obviously still novel to have somebody to share food with.
I think it takes for after them eating and like they're cleaning up or whatever, or Theo is cleaning up and like goes out to the edge of the cave and like out onto the path a little bit and like sort of throws the bones and whatever like down to the water to be carried away by that. Because this is not pollution, this is fine. I'm sure this is fine. My environmentally concerned brain just went, is this an okay thing to do? People do this shit all the time, it's fine.
Yep.
It's fine. Like, it's not a beach at the bottom of this cliff, it's like the water. It's fine.
Yep. And Parker looks a little sad now that food's done and is just like, I guess you've got to go back now.
I don't have to go yet. I don't want to go yet. We could do something else. What would you like to do?
Parker gets like this sort of broad expression on his face.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't know would Theo recognize it as a draconic grin yet? Because it's definitely a draconic grin.
I think Theo maybe knows that that's a good face, but doesn't necessarily know what exactly the face means exactly, if that tracks.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Parker's just like, I could show you around.
Oh, sure. I would like that.
And with that, Parker like moves forward and like uses their head to scoop Theo up, so Theo's like on their back, and they're just like, hold on.
Theo does so. Very tightly, like knees either side, gripping onto whatever, like if there are any like bony protrusions on like the top of Parker's head, or whether it's just around the neck, just like not letting go anytime soon.
Yeah, it's definitely around the neck. And Parker just like throws themselves off the cliff, stretching their wings out wide, and then just like there are a couple of wing beats to slow the descent, and they skim like the top of the waves. Like Theo can probably feel some of the sea spray as Parker goes and starts flying low, and like there's this little grotto that he brings Theo to, and he lands there and is just like, I found this the other day.
Theo definitely shrieked on that initial plummet down, and was holding very tight through nearly all of that, like the fear response, and like when they land, sort of rolls off of Parker, just sort of hugs the ground for a minute and kisses the ground. It's just like, that was a lot. Good a lot, just a lot. And sort of like rolls onto their back and like looks up at the ceiling and around and at Parker to sort of take in the space.
I think there's like bioluminescent lichen that glitters.
Very good.
And like it goes back a little ways, and maybe there's some, I don't know, coral doesn't grow in cold climates, but like there's some sort of like
fantasy coral
that grows in the back of the grotto. Just some sort of like pseudo plant animal life that would be of interest to a dragon.
Theo just sort of like probably has never seen anything like the bioluminescence, where just like staring around, eyes wide, just like, this is so beautiful. Thank you.
There's the draconic grin again, and Parker's just like, I'm so glad you like it.
I do. Actually. And I think they dart off to like the woods, like try to find like a loose piece of something, and find a couple of chunks. One piece that's very small, and they sort of pocket that, and they find a bigger piece, and they look at Parker, and they smile, do their own draconic grin, like this sort of it's very sort of warm smile, like crooked, but not in the disingenuous way, just sort of like that's their face.
Mm-hmm.
And they reach into their little like satchel bag that they've always got and pull out a couple of strips of fabric or like leather, and immediately start twisting it and do like this little knotted thing around a chunk, this larger chunk. So it's on like a strap, and they come up to Parker and just like holds it out, just like, to remember today. And it's like looking for looks like, well, they're waiting for Parker to say something before they like put it on him.
Parker just like nods eagerly.
Given the size of it would probably go around a 4-leg, or it could, if there are any like, does Parker have horns? Anything like a horn?
I don't think Parker has horns. I think it would be a 4-leg.
Okay, then Theo sort of like drops to a crouch and like sort of fastens it around one of Parker's 4 legs, so like he can hold it up and see it if he wants to.
That's so sweet.
Oh well. And like Theo just blushes and doesn't really know what to say to that. I feel like they maybe spend some time there just talking and enjoying that space together. Like there's no way that somebody's probably going to find them there. So I feel like this is the first time Parker hears Theo laugh properly. Like as opposed to sort of quiet giggle, but like Parker says something or does something and like Theo laughs properly and it's like loud and it echoes off off the walls of the cave, and they just seem very happy. Because it's good is the thing.
It is.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got anything else for that scene or...
I don't think so.
Okay. So at the end of the scene, we go over what wages were won, how many bonds there now are. I got all 3 of mine.
I got all 3 of mine, so...
Woo!
We gained 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bonds.
Hell yeah. Nice.
Alright. The second scene is when we first face danger. Danger can be anything, and the instigator of danger can be anyone. In this scene, scare each other. Put yourself in danger and demand help from the other. Be afraid and insecure about your abilities, and escalate the situation whenever possible. Remember that this danger is not final, nor should it be. You will have world-ending danger to face at the end of the game. At the height of the danger in this scene, you should make it out by working together and saving each other from harm. At the end of this scene, the other planet is uncomfortably close now and takes up the majority of the sky. There is no doubt that collision is coming.
This game is very good, I've got to say.
Yes.
Okay. The wages that we can face. I'll do mine first, as you just read a chunk. For the rider, I will know the danger intimately from some past event. I will rush headlong in front of my friend, even though I have no scales to protect me. I will spit blood to the floor and wipe my mouth with the back of my hand. I will fall off the dragon mid-flight. I will black out at the worst time.
And as the dragon, my wagers are, I will deafen the area with a defensive roar. I will become so hurt I am unable to pick myself up. I will endanger the rider because I am too afraid to face the danger. I will consume something valuable with my flames in order to protect the rider. And I will face the danger to my own detriment.
Slight spoiler of what's coming up next, because I really feel like the writers of this game know their bullshit when it comes to fanfic, because there's when we first face danger, and then the immediate after scene is when we shared a comforting embrace. So I really appreciate the hurt comfort, powerful vibe that is waiting here. It's good, is what it is.
It's very good, is the thing.
Okay, which of these wages do I want? Do we want to decide what the danger is before we choose our wages? Or do you think that is cheating?
I think that's cheating.
Okay. That's why I asked the question. Okay.
Ooh, so I've wagered 3 and Jade has wagered 4. Interesting.
Oh, well. So, how does this scene begin?
So, and you're completely free to veto this, I'm thinking, because it's still the winter months. Food may have been scarce for a neighboring settlement, and maybe they've struck out to raid our settlement.
Yep, I like that. I like that a lot. And I don't think this is the first time this has happened either. Raiders have hit the village before. I feel like they may be a good fishing village, and like so they get a lot of produce from the sea, so maybe winter isn't as, in some respects, as hard for them as it is for other places. Mm-hmm. But they don't have like farmland, so there's certain things they definitely don't have.
Yeah.
So, but like they have like effectively fresh meat when other people don't. But yeah, like Theo knows what this is like, and I think, how close do we think the little cave that they hang out in, the one that isn't the grotto, is from the actual village? I'm wondering if it's close enough that Parker would have heard things happening, or whether Theo would have to come get him.
I think it's more interesting to me if, like, Parker could hear what's going on. Like, well, actually, I have a question. Is Parker the only dragon in the village?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
In this village, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it if Parker can hear it and come running. And I think this is the first time Parker's seen the village get raided.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's where we pick up, is Parker hearing the sounds and maybe seeing smoke in the distance. And they just fly in and swoop down to where they know Theo's home is. And that's his first priority, is them. How are they safe? What's going on?
I think Theo has already Theo is not a strong person. I'm imagining my brain has defaulted to fantasy settings because dragons and D&D, because I am what I am. So like Theo's not a brawler, but like they're already out of their house, the home they share with a couple of other people, family members, and they've got like a bow and arrow. And because I think in the panic their first thought wasn't Parker, because they're not used to having Parker in their life. So their first thought was, well, this is what I've always had to use in the past. And they see Parker, and they just sort of like lower the bow and arrow and just sort of like throw their arms around his neck, just like, I'm really glad to see you.
Parker's just like, I'm glad you're okay, but what's going on? What do I need to do?
We should get over to the, and like they can't speak, but they point to sort of like where like the high wall maybe is of the village, and just like indicates that they should get over there and try and do something. Like if we get behind them, maybe we can scare them off.
Okay, and I feel like this is going to end up becoming a theme. Parker scoops up Theo on their back, and just lifts off. And when they get on the other side of the high wall, they land, behind the raiders, and they kind of whisper to Theo, in as much as a dragon can whisper, cover your ears.
Theo does.
And Parker takes a deep breath, which Theo can feel between his knees, or between their knees, and lets out just this bellowing roar. It's not terribly deep, because Parker's rib cage isn't that large, but it's still this deafening sort of noise that's meant to completely demoralize the raiders.
And I think it works on a chunk of them for sure. And like some people just hear this dragon roaring and are just like, yep, nope. And just sort of like abandon their attempt and start fleeing. But there are some that either have heard dragon roars before, or they're desperate enough for food that they aren't gonna let like this clearly young dragon scare them off. And a few of these raiders start like heading towards Parker and Theo just sort of like scrambles off Parker's back, pulls an arrow from the quiver on their back, and like knocks an arrow, and just shouts at them to get back, and lets loose with an arrow. I don't know how well the shot lands, but they're trying. So,
well, I mean, if we want to add a sense of chance to it, we can always roll for how well the shot lands.
Yeah, I got a bunch of D6s next to me. What do we want to say? The higher the number, the better the shot is?
Yeah.
Cool. That's a 5. So, yeah, I think arrow to the knee happens, and like one of these raiders goes down, just like cursing and yanking it out. That doesn't deter the rest of them though, and I think they're still coming on. One of them's got like this big club and is like getting ready to take a swing as they run up to Theo.
Yeah, Parker's not having any of that. They like, God, the only way I can think of describing this is like they like, it's like dragon drifting, where they kind of like scramble to get in front of Theo, but like spin out a little bit, so that way they're not quite able to get purchase in the snow.
Yeah,
but they're still in front of Theo to take the blow for them. I'm gonna roll to see how well that goes. So that goes reasonably well for Parker. I rolled a 4 on a d6, so if we're going by Forged in the Dark rules, that's a partial success. So I think the raider definitely doesn't get Theo, but Parker probably gets clocked in the head. But they're able to shake it off.
Oh, is it too early for some psychic linked bullshit?
It's never too early for some psychic linked bullshit.
Okay, I think Parker takes the hit and stands the hit and can withstand it, but Theo, it's like they've been hit too, and they just sort of like hit the snow, like they've taken a hit to the head, like the impact got them, and they black out and hit the snow.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Parker is just like absolutely distraught now. And fires off a jet of flame to get the raiders to go back. And let's see how well that goes.
Just piling our own mechanics on here.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Yes.
I rolled a 6, so it goes really well, so the raiders start retreating from Parker. But Parker... I don't think he's seeing red necessarily, but the fact that Theo has somehow become incapacitated, like, he's just, like, on a tear. He's not going to let these raiders come any closer. And so I think he just keeps up with the flames.
Yeah.
And I think actually, you know, he backs them up against the high wall. But he ends up, the flames get so hot that the high wall also catches fire.
Yes. Good. Love it.
But as soon as the raiders appear to have scattered, like, he doesn't even pay attention to the high wall. That's not his priority. He goes back to Theo and just kind of, like, nuzzles at them.
Oh, it's good. And I think that combined, wow, words, with the smell of burning, Parker is already stirring, and this sort of they're fully awake now, and because it's that good shit, their nose has started bleeding, but as like Parker does them awake, they sort of like they get up and they sort of sniff a little bit, and they shake their head and just spit, and like this like massive globule of blood just like hits the snow next to them and wipes it away, and just looks at the wall burning, looks at Parker, and just but sees the fleeing raiders as well, and just puts their hand on the side of like Parker's now, just like rests their forehead against his, and it's just like, thank you.
I don't think Parker says anything. I think they just close their eyes.
Yes, it's the good shit.
That sounds like scene.
Yep, sounds like scene.
Okay, so let's tally up our wagers.
Tally ho. Okay. I got my 4.
I got my 3.
We're very good at this game. We're such angst gremlins.
So that means we got 7 total.
7 total.
Hi, it's Dora, and I just wanted to thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed us, please consider leaving a rating on iTunes, telling your friends about us, or tweeting about our show using the FTLcast hashtag. No, seriously, we crave the validation and it helps us out. Your support really means a lot. Thanks again!